So when we think of what would be a proper message or a good response to everything that's going on, it may be that the most appropriate response would just be, as we see after Aaron lost his children in the story of the Bible, and it was Vayidam Aaron, he was completely silent. There was no response. What kind of response could you give when there's so much suffering, and personally know of so many people that have passed on, so many great people that have passed on from this disease? But at the same time, I'm reminded of uh, stories of previous generations of those that have suffered through other times, where there was a message of a man, a great man, who sat and was prosecuted in the Gulag in Siberia for many years, and speaking of his resolve and his strength, he says that if you lose your he said like this: if you lose your money, money comes, money goes. It's okay, it happens. If you lose your health, you lose half of what you could have been. But if you lose your spirit, then you lose it. Then you lose it all, because if you don't have your spirit, you have nothing. And similar to the situation that we are in today, when it comes to our finances, our money, many people are losing their jobs. There's uncertainty with the market and so on and so forth. As much as it means so much and it helps us so much, money comes, money goes, and indeed we have faith that it will return and everything will be good. When it comes to our health, we are in times where we find ourselves where we don't know what's going to be with our health. We're not in complete control over our health, and truthfully, that you do lose a part of yourself because of that. But we need to remember that we can't lose our spirit during these times, because spirit is in our control, and if we lose our spirit, we lose it all. So we need to make sure our spirit remains alive. In times like this, we turn to God, and we're reminded of King David from Psalm 121, where he says, "From where will my help? I turn to the mountains. From where will my help come? The help will come from the Lord, Maker of heaven and earth." Ultimately, everything that we have, our way out of this is by turning to God. Everything is from God. In fact, it's brought down from in the Talmud that hiktim refuah lamaka, that God, when there's any plague or any sort of suffering, when there's an illness that already out there, God, before the illness is there, He already puts out there the cure. And scientists as well, when they speak of getting this cure, the vaccine and the cure to what we're dealing with right now, they don't say we're going to invent the cure or working on inventing a vaccine and so on and so forth. They say searching, because we know that it's out there, and that's why we turn to God and we say, God, please give these great men, these scientists, these doctors, these laboratories, the vision to be able to find that cure that we know is there. We also need to remember in our times like this that we are not alone, and we should find comfort in the God of comfort, where He says in Psalm 91 that Imay anaychi b'tzara, that He says, I am with Him in His suffering. Whenever we find suffering in our world, it should bring us comfort in knowing that we're not alone and God is with us in this suffering as well. So we turn to God at this time and we say that God of compassion, please have compassion on us. And look at your people. Look how compassionate your people have been. You're throwing them this tremendous test of life, and everyone is responding for the most part with such compassion to one another. The stories that you hear, that I have witnessed and experienced with people reaching out to one another. Look at, if there's silver linings to some of what's going on. This is one of those things where you're seeing people recognizing the need to help out other peoples that are less fortunate, and we're seeing that. So we turn to God of compassion to say, show us your compassion at this time in a revealed way by looking at how compassionate we're being. God of our healing, please heal all those who are ill and suffering from this illness, so that we can find a cure and help them return back to their strong health. The God of strength, we turn to God and say, please give us strength, particularly to the amazing healthcare staff. One of the things that pains me so much during this crisis is that I'm used to going to the hospital several times a week to visit patients, and I always see the amazing staff and how caring and devoted they are in regular times. But now, when you're not able to be there for the patients, and knowing that they're alone without any visitors, but we know that they're in great hands, and the hospital staff are all doing an amazing job, putting their lives at risk on the front lines. God, give them strength so they can get through this crisis with good health and be able to bring about a complete healing to those that are ill. Tonight is Passover, today being Passover Eve, and tonight we're going to sit down for the Seder, and we're all going to be home by ourselves alone, very much like it was by the very first Passover, over 3,300 years ago, where God says, Al yetze ish mi Pesach Beisai ad boker. God says, do not leave your homes until morning. God instructed everyone to make their original Passover Seder at home and not to leave. We're doing that the same thing tonight. We may feel that we're all alone, but we need to remember that God is with us at the Seder table with us. He's doing all those steps. He's asking the 4 questions with us. He's there with us. When Elijah the prophet comes tonight to visit all our homes, we need to remember to ask of him that not only should he beseech to God to find this cure and this virus and this pandemic should end, but that we should merit the complete redemption. That God of our Redeemer should redeem us to the ultimate redemption, where there's no more suffering at all anymore in this world. And may we merit the time that, just like in the original Passover, God said, Al yetze ish mi Pesach Beisai ad boker, that you shouldn't leave your homes till morning, that we should merit that morning, that day of light, when everything that we're experiencing here today should all be past, and it should be a day of light, of everyone should be returned to their complete health, back to having their jobs and having their peace of life. And the final message, and I always share with everybody during these times, is that as difficult as the times are that we find ourselves in, there's so much good that's happening right now. People recognizing what's important in life, valuing, stepping outside and realizing how appreciative they have to be. The story of a man who was a 90-year-old man who returned from the hospital after recovering from COVID-19, and he got a very large bill from the hospital, so he started crying. The bill was for oxygen. So his wife asked him, it's okay, we'll get through, we'll pay the bill. So he turns to his wife and he says, no, I'm not crying over the bill of oxygen. I'm crying over, for 90 years I've been going outside and breathing oxygen for free. I was never billed by God for this. How much money do I owe God? And that's what we're seeing today. People realizing and recognizing how all the good they have in this world, and appreciating the thing that the small things, which are not small, they're great, their families, their health, their children. So we need to remember that we're going to get through this, and we're going to get through this hopefully very soon, sooner than later. And we need to remember when we do get through this and past this, that all those good things that happened while this was going on should remain. We should continue caring for each other, continue in strengthening our faith in God and in humankind. Happy Passover.